The mission and the woman Mark stepped out of the shuttle and looked up at the twin suns of Velara Pran. The air was thin, warm, and dry, too perfect to be real. It was the capital of the Velari Empire, and Mark was Earth's only diplomat sent for a new peace agreement. He was not a soldier, not anymore, not since the last war. He had trained in language, culture, and empathy. He came with only one weapon: trust. Standing on the platform to greet him was Lyra, the Velari envoy. She was tall, graceful, with glowing skin like silver under moonlight. Her hair flowed like streams of liquid metal. Her smile was soft, her voice even softer. And when she spoke, Mark felt like the world slowed down around him. "Welcome, human," she said. "Peace begins with you." Mark bowed slightly, holding his translator device steady. "And with you, Envoy Lyra." From that moment, things moved quickly. Lyra guided him through meetings with Velari officials. She translated his words, added warmth to them, made his awkward lines feel poetic. She always smiled at him, not like others who faked it for the cameras. Hers felt different. They dined together, laughed, walked through glowing gardens under alien stars. "Have you ever trusted someone from outside your kind?" she asked once. Mark chuckled. "I'm doing it right now." She tilted her head. "Good. Then maybe you'll understand." He thought she was talking about peace, about the mission, about understanding cultures. But now, looking back, those words hid something deeper. 2 weeks later, Lyra came to his chamber late at night. She was quiet, nervous even. "I wanted to see you." "Before tomorrow's summit," she whispered. They talked. She sat beside him, too close for protocol. Mark's heart beat fast. Maybe he was naive. Maybe he wanted something to believe in again. But when she kissed him, he didn't resist. Then she leaned close, pressing her lips to his ear. "Forgive me," she whispered. "You were never supposed to be kind." And just like that, she left. The door closed behind her. Mark sat frozen. He didn't understand what she meant. Was it a joke? A warning? He didn't have time to figure it out. Minutes later, alarms blared across the embassy. Mark rushed to the window Velari soldiers and surrounded the human delegation's compound. Earth's flag burned in the plaza. Fighters screamed across the skies. He grabbed his communicator. Static. Jamming got, he reached the docking bay. Guards were there too. One recognized him and raised a weapon. Mark dove behind a console, rolled across the floor, and kicked a soldier's leg. He didn't want to fight, but instinct took over. He barely reached his shuttle and launched into the sky. Shots hit the engine. Systems flared red. He punched in coordinates blindly. The stars turned around him, and then silence. The ship trembled. Oxygen levels dropped. The nearest moon was his only chance. He crash-landed in the dirt of a dead world. Sparks burst from the control panel. Mark pulled himself out, coughing, bleeding. He looked up at the alien sky and saw nothing but emptiness. Lyra. Her whisper echoed in his head. "You were never supposed to be kind." He sat in the dust, heartbroken in a way bullets never could. Then he clenched his fists. He had come for peace. They gave him betrayal. And now? Now he would give them something back. Asterisk. The heartbreak and the escape. The broken shuttle hissed as steam escaped from twisted metal panels. Mark dragged himself out of the wreckage and fell onto the dusty moon surface. His left arm was cut. Blood soaked his sleeve. His shoulder burned. But he didn't care. The pain in his chest was worse. He crawled under a nearby rock outcropping and collapsed, hiding the dim glow of the shuttle from orbit. If the Velari were tracking him, they'd see the wreck. Let them. He reached for the emergency pack and pulled out the field communicator. Dead. completely fried from the jamming field back on Velara Prime. He tapped buttons over and over, hoping for a miracle. Nothing. He leaned back against the stone wall and let the silence take him. The stars above were cruel, so calm, so uncaring. Lyra's face flashed through his mind. That smile, that voice, he thought it had been real. He thought she had cared, maybe even loved him. But now, everything felt like poison. Mark closed his eyes. His mind went back to Earth, to the weeks of training, the hours of learning Velari customs, the endless speeches about trust, peace, and diplomacy. All of it crushed in one whisper. You were never supposed to be kind. He opened a small data tablet from his bag. Its power cell flickered, but worked. It held personal logs, messages from home, his sister's birthday message, his dog's video, a letter from his mother, and photos of Lyra, taken when she laughed at a joke he told, when she looked at him like he mattered. He stared at the image, and then deleted it. No more lies. The moon was dead, but there were ruins, old structures from forgotten explorers. He limped toward them the next day, dragging salvaged equipment with him. He found a half-buried outpost, likely human from decades past. It had no power, no working systems, but it had shelter, and it had silence. Mark sat in that outpost and healed. Day by day, his wounds closed. He drank recycled water, ate emergency rations, and trained. He didn't forget Lyra's face. He didn't let himself. He took apart the pieces of his broken communicator, searched for Velari signal bands. He found one, a weak thread. He followed it, traced it, hacked it. And suddenly, the Velari voices returned. Short bursts of encrypted chatter. At first, just noise. But then he started decoding pieces, keywords, names. And then he heard his own name. Target still missing. Human envoy. Presumed dead. Orders confirmed. All traces of involvement must be removed. So that was it. He wasn't just a betrayal. He was a secret. They were trying to erase him completely. Mark's jaw clenched. He began working every night, building tools, weapons, traps, listening. And learning. Galilei schedules, patrol paths, supply, routes, communications relays. They had no idea he was still alive. One night, as he looked at the half-functioning map flickering on the screen, he saw something strange. A personal frequency, hidden, shielded, but familiar. It was hers. Lyra. She was alive. But why hadn't she left? Why hadn't she tried to find him, or warn Earth? Questions boiled inside him. But one thing was clear. He couldn't stay hidden. Not anymore. He stood up, suited up in a patched-together exoframe made from shuttle scraps, and looked out at the stars. He had no orders, no command. Just betrayal. And the memory of a kiss wrapped in poison. If the Velari wanted him erased, they would first have to find him, and when they did, they'd regret ever meeting a human like Mark. Asterisk. The human strikes back. Mark moved like a shadow. His first strike was small. A Velari drone relay drifting through orbit above a supply outpost, with a makeshift launcher built from the crashed shuttles. Systems, he fired a guided EMP charge. The drone blinked once, then fell, lifeless, into the dust. The next attack came 2 days later. A fuel convoy on the outer edge of Velari space lost contact. The command center blamed solar storms. They didn't know one of their own hover tanks had been rigged with an overload device by a human they thought dead. Mark didn't want full war. He wanted fear. He wanted them to ask, how? He wanted them to remember what betrayal cost. Hidden in a cave lined with old copper veins, Mark set up a full listening station. Scraps of Velari gear, bits of Earth tech, and his own stubborn mind worked together to create something dangerous. His. Body was healing, but his mind was sharp now. No more softness. No more hoping she had meant well. He intercepted encrypted Velari transmissions. Their officers were confused, blaming rebels or rogue mercenaries. One voice, calm and cruel, spoke louder than the rest. Commander Yao. Mark recognized the name. The one who had pushed for Earth to be managed carefully. Diplomacy was always a cover for something darker. Mark studied Yao's movements. He tracked supply drops, learned the flight codes of patrol ships. And one quiet night, he slipped aboard a Velari scout vessel that had landed near the canyon below his cave. The ship took off without knowing he was inside. When it docked at an orbital repair station, Mark left behind a parting gift, a delayed burst device hidden in the core relay. 6 hours later, the entire station went dark. 10 ships were trapped. 4 collided. The Velari lost communication for 20 minutes. That was long enough. Mark sent a signal burst using the Ya. Confusion, a simple message in Velari standard. The heart you tried to kill is still beating. The Velari High Command panicked. News spread across their colonies. A ghost, a human survivor. Some called in the betrayed. Others whispered a name in fear, the Heartburner, because he returned to make theirs ache like his did. Mark didn't stop. He damaged their sensors near the hot Glara Gate. He set off controlled blasts along their mining roads. He freed imprisoned diplomats from a secret black site on ZKAR-4. Each act was sharp, cold, and clean. Each one carried a signature, not of firepower, but precision. That was when he heard her name again. Lyra. In one intercepted conversation, a nervous officer spoke. She refused to lie again. We imprisoned her in Station Hollow. She warned us this would happen. Mark froze. She was still alive, and she had spoken out? Doubt crept into him, just for a moment. But he crushed it. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was about truth. Why had she whispered that warning? Why hadn't she escaped? He pulled up the coordinates of Station Hollow, a high-security facility, buried deep in an asteroid field. Dangerous. But not impossible. He would go, not to rescue her out of love. That part of him had been burned away. He would go to see her face, to hear her words, to look into her eyes and ask, did you ever care? And if she lied again, then the fire he carried would burn the station to ash. Asterisk, the ghost of the betrayed. Asteroid fields shimmered like a graveyard of broken stars. Tiny rocks floated endlessly, colliding with each other, creating sparks in the void. Deep inside, hidden behind electromagnetic clouds, was Station Hollow, a fortress wrapped in steel and secrets. Mark's stolen Velari scout ship moved like a whisper. He flew low, silent, blending into debris, using every trick he'd learned from war and betrayal. This mission wasn't about destruction. Not yet. This was about answers. Station Hollow appeared through the asteroid dust. A dark sphere anchored to a rotating core, with hangars on one side and black towers on the other. No welcome lights. No beacons. Only cold silence. Mark slipped into a vent access tube used for mining bots. He crawled for nearly an hour, reaching a maintenance hall. He planted signal jammers, looped camera feeds, and moved like a ghost. He made it to the prisoner sector. He scanned door after door. And then he saw her. Lyra. She sat inside a clear energy cell, her silver hair now tangled, her glow faded. There were no guards near her cell, just a single camera. Mark bypassed the controls and opened the lock. The energy wall vanished. She looked up slowly. Her eyes widened. Mark? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. He didn't step forward. He didn't smile. He stood in the doorway, like a storm ready to fall. You're alive, she said, standing. You sound surprised. I wasn't sure you would survive, she said. I tried to warn you. Mark cut her off. You kissed me, whispered your guilt, and sent me to die. Lyra looked away, her hands trembling. I never wanted that. I was ordered to. Mislead you. They said it was just to delay talks. Not. He stepped closer. Not murder? No. I fought them. After the attack, I told them you'd survive. I told them we'd made a mistake. He studied her face. The same softness was there, but her shoulders were hunched. Her voice cracked. You fought them? He asked, voice cold. Why are you still here then? Why didn't you escape? Warn Earth? Lyra's eyes watered. They locked me up when I refused to lie again. I told them I wouldn't be their weapon anymore. Mark's fists clenched. Did you ever care about me, Lyra? She didn't speak. That silence was sharper than any blade. Mark nodded slowly. I thought so. I did care, she finally said. But I was scared. They told me humans were dangerous. That if we let our guard down, you'd conquer us. Mark stepped back, gaze hard. They were right. Suddenly, alarms blared through. The station. Mark's presence had been detected. The hallway lights turned red. I came for the truth, Mark said. Now I have it. You're leaving me? She asked. I'm not here to save you, he said. But if you want to live, you'll follow. Lyra stepped through the open door, weak but steady. Together, they ran through dark tunnels, dodging patrols. Mark threw flash bombs, disabled turrets, and led her to the hangar bay. They boarded the scout ship. Hold tight, he said, gripping the controls. Fighter ships launched from above. Mark weaved through them, flying like a man with nothing left to lose. A blast skimmed the wing. Lyra screamed. Don't close your eyes now, Mark shouted. You wanted to see what a human looks like when he fights back? They soared through the asteroid field, shaking off pursuit, diving between rocks. A final burst of speed, and they vanished into open space. The stars swallowed them whole. Asterisk. The trap and the truth. The scout ship drifted in a silent sector far beyond known trade routes. Stars blinked through the window like distant thoughts. Mark sat in the pilot chair, eyes on the screen, watching for signals. Lyra sat quietly in the co-pilot seat, arms wrapped around herself. She hadn't said a word since they escaped. Say. What you need to say. Mark finally muttered. Lyra looked up. Her voice was small. I don't know what you want to hear. Start with the truth. She hesitated, then took a deep breath. The Velari never wanted peace. They agreed to. The talks with Earth only to stall. They feared your species, your speed, your strength, your unpredictability. And me? Mark asked. They picked you because you were peaceful, a war veteran who walked away. They thought you'd be easy to manipulate. I was told to keep you close. Mark stared forward, jaw tight. But something happened. She said, you weren't what they expected. You were. Honest. And kind. You listened. You made me question everything I believed. You still led me into a trap. I tried to stop it, she said. The last night I kissed you not. To fool you, but to warn you. I whispered those words, hoping you'd sense the danger. Mark turned toward her. You didn't fight hard enough. I know. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, full of things that might have been, full of betrayal, half-truths, and regrets. Mark checked the screen. We're not safe yet. I sent a signal before landing. A coded message to a contact near the neutral zone. But there's a problem. What kind of problem? Velari forces intercepted it. They think I'm heading to the rally point. He pointed at the map. So that's where I'm going. You're flying into a trap? No, I'm setting. 1. He rerouted the course toward a hollow moon, orbiting a gas giant known Velari ambush zone. But this time, Mark had something they didn't expect, a message of his own. Using Lyra's authorization codes once, she surrendered to prove. Her loyalty mark broke into the Valari command channel. He broadcasted a single clip, his survival, the betrayal, and Lyra's testimony about the truth behind the failed peace talks. He added only one line of narration, imperfect. Valari tongue. You betrayed peace. Now face the storm you created. Then he turned off the signal and prepped the explosives hidden in the scout ship's belly. Wait, Lyra said. You're going to blow up the ship? Mark nodded. They think they'll catch me here. Instead, they'll walk into a minefield. I thought you came for answers, not vengeance. I came for both. Now I've got them. As they approached the hollow moon, Valari warships emerged from the gas cloud, sleek and silent, wings gleaming under the dim light. Lyra gripped her seat. We won't outrun them. We won't need to. Mark launched the ship on autopilot, loaded with his makeshift payload. Then he and Lyra climbed into an escape pod hidden beneath the floor one with a cloaked exit launch. Moments before the Valari ships locked on, the scout ship exploded, triggering a chain of secondary charges scattered across the moon's orbit mines. Mark had dropped earlier from orbit. The warships collided with waves of shrapnel and EMP bursts. 3 exploded. 2 more went dark. Panic filled the Valari channels dot in the escape pod. Drifting away unnoticed, Mark listened. One Valari officer screamed, It's him, the human ghost. Another whispered, He knows everything, even our secrets. Lyra stared at Mark in awe. You brought down 5 warships with broken tech and scrap bombs. He didn't smile. This is just the beginning. Face to face again, the escape pod drifted toward an old human satellite orbiting a quiet moon forgotten by the galaxy. But not by Mark Dot. He had programmed its systems years ago during his deployment. It had food, power, and most importantly, a hidden com array. It welcomed him with a soft mechanical voice. Welcome, Commander Mark. Your signal is secure. Lyra looked around in silence. The satellite interior was small, just enough space for 2. No guards, no guns. Only memory. Mark activated the transmitter and sent a coded burst to Earth Command. He left out the emotional details. Just facts. Valari treachery. Lyra's confession. His survival. The intercepted attack. The truth. After sending the message, he turned back to her. Now talk, he said quietly. All of it. No more riddles. She sat down slowly, her fingers trembling. My orders came directly from the High Council, she said. They told me if peace succeeded, our control over the region would crumble. Earth would rise too fast. They feared you'd take over. They weren't wrong, Mark muttered. I was chosen because I looked trustworthy. I trained to mirror human emotions, to study your ways, your gestures, your kindness. They thought it would make me better at deception. Mark folded his arms. It did, she flinched. But something happened. You were real. You didn't act like a conqueror. You treated me like a person. He stared at her, cold. I still did what they asked, she admitted. But after I saw what they planned, I changed. I begged them to cancel the strike. They refused. I warned you in the only way I could. A whisper, he said bitterly, while I walked into a trap. She looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. I loved you. I just didn't know how to stop being what they made me. Mark didn't answer. He looked past her out the small porthole window at the empty stars. He remembered her laughter in the garden. He remembered her betrayal in the fire. I don't know what's worse, he said at last. The fact that you lied, or the fact that part of me still wants to believe you didn't. Silence filled the station, and a new signal flashed on the console. Direct reply from Earth. Mark opened it. A calm voice came through. Command, Confirms Velari deception. New orders authorized. Return at once. Bring the asset. He glanced at Lyra. She heard it too. I'm the asset now, she said quietly. A traitor to my people. No, Mark said. You're a witness. And if you're lying again, you'll answer for it. Lyra stood. I'm not lying. I'm tired of lies. He walked to the hatch, opened the outer door. The human retrieval ship hovered outside sleek, armed and waiting. You step through that door, he said. You tell everything. No more games. No more smiles to hide behind. She took a deep breath and walked past him. Before leaving, she paused. Do you think one day you'll forgive me? He stared at her. Forgiveness isn't something I carry anymore. She nodded and stepped into the light. Mark followed, the door closing behind him. The ship carried them toward Earth, toward justice, toward truth, toward whatever came next. But Mark knew one thing for certain. What was broken in him would never be the same again. Asterisk. The end of the mask, the Earth ship sliced through space, a silent dagger wrapped in stealth plating. Inside, Mark sat across from Lyra in a private holding room, though she was not in chains. She wore a plain gray uniform. Her hands remained folded. Her eyes for once didn't glow. Mark hadn't spoken since they boarded. He didn't need to. Message he sent had already reached the highest levels of command. The Velari betrayal, the warships destroyed, Lyra's recorded testimony, and the scars he wore, not just on his body, but deeper. The betrayal had become public. As the shuttle neared Earth. A transmission played across the galactic forums. Curated clip from Mark's recovered logs. They tried to break a human heart. But they forgot what grows in its place. The message was raw, powerful, and unfiltered. It spread like fire. Billions saw it. Some wept. Others grew angry. The Velari High Council denied everything until Mark's evidence left them speechless. Had been caught, and Earth would not be kind. The ship landed at a classified base near the edge of Luna. Military officers waited. Doctors 2. Mark exited first. He saluted the commander without a word. They nodded and stepped aside. Lyra walked behind him. She looked smaller now, like someone who had left her world far behind. The officers didn't arrest her. Not yet. Mark had insisted she speak first. In the debriefing chamber, Earth officials watched through thick glass as Lyra told the truth. Names, orders, lies. She didn't protect anyone. She didn't flinch. After 2 hours, the session ended. Mark walked in. Slowly, the others left them alone. She turned to him. I did what I could. Mark nodded once. So did I. She stepped forward. They'll hunt me now. Velari assassins. I'm nothing to them. You should have thought of that before, he said flatly. I did. She looked at him a long moment. You could have left me to rot. I almost did. A pause. Why didn't you? Mark didn't look away. Because I needed to see if you were worth saving. And am I? He shrugged. Doesn't matter now. You're a piece of the truth. That's enough. She smiled sadly. Even if I meant nothing to you anymore? Mark turned, walking. Toward the exit. At the door, he stopped. Don't mistake silence for nothing, he said. But don't mistake survival for forgiveness either. Then he walked out. Epilogue. Months passed. The Velari lost major trade routes. Sanctions crushed their outer colonies. Their council fractured. Earth rose in influence, not by war, but by truth and reputation. And somewhere, far from the politics, Mark stood at the edge of a quiet forest on Earth, staring at the stars. He still dreamed of her sometimes. The silver light, the whisper, the betrayal. But it didn't break him. It made him. Something else. Stronger, sharper, wiser. They had tried to break his heart. They feared what he became because of it. and the galaxy would never forget his name.